Helen Baker was born both blind and deaf. That is the reaction I was expecting. Haven't told you what her curriculum vitae looks like. She was a lawyer, she was a social rights activist, she was an advocate, she was a human rights activist, she was a lot of things, a politician. However, she was born both blind and deaf. Now, in our society, where do you find blind and deaf people? Where? In the streets. What do you find them doing? Aha! Now, our society has a place for people who are born failures. Obviously, if you are born without sight and vision, our society does not classify you as a first-class citizen. You are segregated to beg your entire life. However, there are people who were born with much bigger problems than most of us will ever face, and have achieved more greater things than all of us together combined will ever achieve. The difference is in your mind. It's called a mindset. And so you have two sets of people. The first person looks at his problems and says, this is the end of the line for me. The second person looks at the same problem and says, you know what? I'm just about to get started. It is a matter of perspective. It is a matter of your mindset. Now, I want you and I challenge you to have the mindset of what and who they call the overcomers. Can you say with me, I'm an overcomer? I'm an overcomer. Say it again. I am an overcomer. Say it till you are very sure. I am an overcomer. Say it till you are convinced. I am an overcomer. And so the next time you go through anything that seems to be like a failure, you must change that standpoint from saying, you know what, I failed, and then to say, you know what, I'm an overcomer. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again. Now, of course, you know the very famous story of Thomas Edison. Do you know Thomas Edison? What is he known for? Where are the engineers in the house? Thomas Edison, what is he known for? He's the guy who has invented your bulb you are using. Now, the story of Thomas Edison is quite a common story. And allow me to share with you in 30 seconds. Thomas Edison was a scientist, by the way. When Thomas was a little boy, he was so dumb in his head. He didn't know anything. And so his teacher one day called his mother and said, Mama Thomas, please come to school tomorrow morning. So she came and she brought him and she handed him over to his mother and said, let me just advise you, take this boy home. There is nothing good that will ever come out of it. Don't waste money on his school fees. One of the most devastating things that could ever happen to you is when your teachers don't believe in you. There is nothing that will break you down like when your teacher, the people who are supposed to impact knowledge in you, do not think that you are mentally prepared to accept information that will transform your life. And so little Thomas went home crying with his mother that day, and his mother sat him down and challenged him and said, Thomas, you are my son. You are the best that there will ever be of your kind. And little Thomas, little by little, he was being homeschooled by his mother. He went through primary and secondary school at home with his mother. His mother was his teacher, lecturer, and professor. He went through university training at home with his mother. She would go and borrow textbooks from the University of Texas and then come back home and teach him what she understood from the textbook. Little Thomas eventually grew up in the future, was able to get a little bit of a diploma, and then went on to open a little research scientific lab behind his mother's terrain. And then from that little lab, with textbooks that he was reading, he started exploring how, this what happened in 1879, he started exploring how he could convert mechanical energy into light energy from textbooks in his lab, in his mother's house, somewhere in the balcony. And then, having tried 999 times, he got it at the 1,000th time. And that is what you have today from somebody who was told that you cannot be anything. Remember, I told you that penultimately, it is whose choice to make?
My choice to make.
Your teachers will inform you, your parents will encourage you, society will try to pressure you, but when it comes to the crossroad where you have to make the life-determining choice, it is your choice to make. And that is why I told you that no matter what, are you listening? Are you listening? I have a lot of stories to tell, but if you keep talking, I'll keep my stories in my pocket. Penultimately, it is your choice to make. And so, when you go through that phase in your life where you fail, where you stumble. Now, let me even share with you a real story from my whole life. When I was in third year in medical school, I thought that they were going to expel me. Now, the story I'm going to share with you, my mother does not even know about it. So pay attention. When I got to third year of medical school, it was so difficult. Listen, those of you who want to become doctors, I'm not trying to discourage you, but if truly you want to become a medical doctor, agree it in your mind today that you will devote the rest of your life to your books. Once you're able to settle that, then you can begin. Can we agree on that? Yes. No, not all of you. I'm not talking to all of you. I'm talking to those who want to become doctors. When you are able to decide that you will marry your books, then and only then are you mentally prepared. Now, when I was in third year in medical school, it was so difficult. I was studying pathological anatomy and pathophysiology. I was studying microbiology and biochemistry, molecular biology, and internal chemical sciences. Yeah, I'm sure from the way they sound, you can already tell. I was studying such difficult things that I had never been exposed to. And so in third year in medical school, I had an exam. It was called dermatology, which simply meant the study of the skin. Now, even as a doctor, I really don't like skin issues. I don't like it. Now, I wrote an exam in my first part one that I was going to, that was the exam that you write. You know, in medical school, you have three major exams. The exam to enter, the exam to go from the middle to the top, and the exam to finally finish. Eventually, when I was writing my part one, which was the exam that takes you midway to the top, I failed. I failed. Can you see how intelligent I'm sounding? How many of you appreciate my intelligence from the way I'm speaking? Yes, but relax, I failed. I'm trying to establish to you that intelligent people sometimes fail. I failed. And I didn't fail once, I failed 3 times. Yeah. Now, the policy of the medical school was that by the time you failed on the 3rd attempt, you will be expelled. And so here I was, palpitating obviously, sweating, diaphorescing. I was in a state of septic shock and hypoglycemic coma, and I was here to confront the challenge of my life. Passing this exam at the 3rd attempt. Now, at that 3rd attempt, like I said, if you fail, what happens to you? Yes. Yeah. So imagine giving all your time from year 1, foundational year, then year 1, then year 2, then after 3-4 years, you are being told that you are not good enough to become a doctor. It's quite a very sad thing. No, but listen, are you listening? Are you listening? Yes. This is where you separate the achievers from the non-achievers. I was not the only one who failed that exam 2 times, who was good by the 3rd attempt. There were quite a couple of people. And now it's very easy for you to see yourself as a failure when you fail. Isn't it? Yeah. It's easy to say to yourself, you know what, I don't think I'm able to do it. But the number one thing that I want to impress into your mind today is to have an healthy dose of self-worth and believe in what you can achieve. Because, again, when it comes to what is what, whose decision is it to make?
My choice. My choice.
And so that day, I remember I decided in my mind that there was no way I was going to leave medical school so prematurely. And so I decided that, you know what, Tosan, you can do it. It is my choice. There is nothing that your brain cannot handle. There is no capacity. Now let me diverge a little bit. How many of you heard of the man called Albert Einstein? The engineers, do you know him? Albert Einstein was the one who brought your famous physical equation that E is equals to m squared. One of the equations that has forever revolutionized the scientific perspective of the human existence and our race. Now, when Albert Einstein died, are you listening? Yes. I will put my stories in my pocket and go and sit down, so just pay attention. When Albert Einstein died, and they did a dissection of his brain, they saw that his brain had only a 9% convoluted of the tubules of the medulla oblongata. In other words, listen. I told you that I used to be where you are, and very, very soon you will be where I am. Amen. Now, what that simply meant was that scientists, by looking at the brain of one of the most intelligent human beings that ever lived in our generation, saw that he only used about 9% of his God-given human intellect, and he almost changed the world. Imagine what you can do. Very good. I like that you took a second to think